Hello and welcome to the VEST webinar series. I'm John Forster, your moderator for today's webinar session, and today we'll be introducing our latest cloud offering, NetSkeme Enterprise. This webinar will last approximately 45 minutes, and you'll be able to submit questions or comments at any time during the webinar by posting in the questions section located within your webinar control panel. Questions may be answered as they are posted, or we'll try to address them in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the webinar. Also note that today's session is being recorded and that the audio is muted for all attendees. If, however, you are experiencing any technical issues, please use the chat window to alert our support staff. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's webinar session, Frank Newsom. Frank is one of the VEST diagramming product owners who's responsible for scope and delivery of the HyDraw CAD product line. So Frank, thanks for joining.
All righty, thank you, John, and thanks everybody for attending today's webinar. So today we're going to be talking about NetSkeme Enterprise. So if I kind of move forward here on our presentation here. So let's get into a little bit about what is NetSkeme and what's the difference between NetSkeme and HyDraw and how NetSkeme Enterprise can kind of be used within your company. So within our quadrant here, we're going to be focusing mostly on the left side today with the circuits. And so for our design engineers and our sales and applications engineers, we've been able to create products for the desktop and the cloud. So we have HyDraw CAD and the HyDraw Library Manager, which allows you to create your own library, either SQL or MS Access, and it can be utilized within HyDraw and fed component data. You can create symbols, you can create templates within HyDraw, and all of that information can then be fed to what is going to be called our project space. So our project space is going to be the place to upload all of your company's standard templates, your data, all of your symbols, and that's going to be allowed to be created by your design engineers and uploaded into the cloud for your sales and applications engineers. So these engineers can now utilize all of that information that a design engineer can do in the office, but they can do that anywhere on the cloud, in the field, showing it to customers. All that data can be utilized. So like I mentioned, you can upload all of that symbol library component data and the drawing templates. And our project space is also going to give you your users, the authorization to use NetSkeme and that library that you've uploaded. And then once your sales and applications engineers have created a schematic, they can actually hand it off to HyDraw CAD in the DWG format, which can be opened in AutoCAD, HyDraw CAD, all of that good stuff. And then it can be used to quickly put together a schematic and kind of get quotes and further the engineering process much faster. We also do have a corporate ERP system that can be fed into the HyDraw database for your design engineers. Things like your stock, your lead time, those things can be automatically updated through SQL queries and things. So just a little bit about NetSkeme Enterprise. It's going to be able to, you're going to be able to leverage your HyDraw CAD investment even further. You're going to take that database and you're going to actually be able to use it on the cloud with your sales and applications engineers through our project space, and it's going to allow you to quickly get corporate standards across the board. You're going to be able to share your library, and you're going to reduce your rework. You're going to really make that engineering process much faster. So instead of talking about it, let's jump right into the fun. So I'm going to go to our project space, and I'm going to log in. So what you're going to see here in our project space is all going to be done as an organization admin. So one person from your organization will be in charge of this, and they'll be allowed to basically assign your users, upload your library, set your template standards, all of that good stuff. So within the apps tab, I have access to all of the applications. So if I select NetSkeme, I'll actually be taken to NetSkeme, asked to log in, and it's just a quick handy link to all of our applications that we have here. We're going to go into our users section, and you'll notice that I have all of our applications on the left. So we're going to be focusing today on NetSkeme Enterprise, And in here, I'll have a table full of all of my users within my organization. So as you can see, I've added myself a couple times using some different accounts. Today we'll be logging in with our Vest sales account. And this is purely just an end user. So that account will actually not have access to this section, but they will have access to the library that we'll be able to upload later. And to add someone, we'll just come over to our little person with the plus, enter their email, first name, last name, business function, and country, and they will receive an email to kind of set a password and be able to log into NetSkeme. And of course, we can also re-verify, remove them from your organization if they need be, and all that good stuff. So this is your kind of user access area. And then we're going to jump over to our settings here. And within our settings, we are going to be able to set the application's kind of drawing settings. So we'll be able to set the units and whether or not you want a jumper, as well as the text sizing. So these are all new features within our latest release of NetSkeme that we have now empowered to kind of an organization admin. So you can set your standards across your users within your organization. So I'm going to make our item ID a little bit larger, and I'm going to save this. So now all of the users within my users tab, when they log in, their item ID should appear as a 0.15 inch option. In our other tabs within the settings, we also have drawing templates. So this is also a new feature lately within one of our latest NetSkeme releases. And so I'm going to quickly upload a template that I've created in NetSkeme. And I believe I selected the A. So I am now uploading that drawing template file. And so what that's going to do is it's going to allow my end users to actually use my templates from within the company standard. And we'll go ahead and we'll upload the B size as well. And basically it's going to find the blocks with the name title block and border. And when I use the insert title block command, it's going to take those blocks and it's going to insert them into my drawing. And yeah, it's going to allow you to use your logo actually within NetSkeme. You'll see that here when I move to our user side of things. And then we also have the fluidpowertools.com library. So this section you can actually set, which manufacturers you are using. And let's say you don't want your sales engineers to pull from ATOS or Argo HyTOS. You'll just uncheck them from the list here. You'll select save. And now your users will not be automatically pulling from manufacturers that you guys are not suppliers for. So now we're going to get into the fun of it. We're going to get to the library section. So I have already uploaded actually a library prior to this. So there's a small component library, and I'll show you kind of what this one looks like before. And then I'll also do an upload today. So we do support both our Access and our SQL. So if you are a HyDraw CAD, you're using the SQL library, we do support that as well as the Access. So if I go in here and I select our data, it's going to ask me to find my HyDraw library. So I have made one in my system. And it is asking for the data folder in this section. So I'll just select our data and I'll select upload. And the browser is going to ask me, do I want to upload these files? I want to say yes. And now basically what's going to happen is these files, these Access database files are going to be uploaded. They're going to be changed over to SQL just for speed purposes, and they're also going to be verified and everything. So this usually will take, depending on your size of your library, a minute or two. And then we're also going to do our symbols. So if I come back here, I go into our symbol library, I'm going to select the actual library within the HLM that I want to upload. So I did build a small NetSkeme library for the purpose of today's webinar. So I'm going to select that one and I'm going to select upload. And it's going to, again, ask me, do I want to upload these files? Sure, why not? Okay, so now while it's uploading, so you'll notice that there was kind of a note here to say, please do not, refresh this page. When we get a little bit later on in the process, you'll be able to kind of step away and let this kind of run offline. But for the sake of where we're at right now, we actually do need to kind of leave this up and running. But while it processes, we'll just kind of see that small library that I've already uploaded prior. So if I go ahead and I sign in using that Vest sales account, you'll notice that I'm taken to the drawing space because I had a drawing open last time. And if I go to my new section, my templates are already there. They're already ready. You'll see my templates, and then I can also use the NetSkeme basic templates, but I'll go to my templates and we'll just select, say, a sheet size A. And it will load our template there. And so now it's got my company logo here within the title block, and everything is all good. And now if I select the library option here, you'll notice that we have a My Corporate Library and a FluidPowerTools.com library radio button. So within the My Corporate Library, these are the folders that I have kind of set up, and they should have the symbols and the links to the data from the very first upload that I did prior to today. And this is a very small, very, very small library. So there's a very good chance actually that some of these are a little empty. But if I remember correctly, and I don't, yes, so there's a pump. So we can bring a pump in. So I did have a couple of symbols in here. And I just want to show real quick, if I double click on this pump symbol, we have a very large set of properties. And so all of these properties are actually defined within my HyDraw library manager, and they're linked to the component type. So all of this is pulled from that database that I uploaded earlier, and it is applied to the symbol. Now you'll notice there's quite a few here. And I did actually add a couple more. So I believe the hose symbol, didn't add that one. We'll bring in the filter. So in the filter, I did add a couple of properties, and I'll show here in the HLM here in a second. But they will show up at the bottom, and I did remove some of the properties within that database that I'm currently uploading. So if we go into our HyDraw library manager, and we go to our filter, and we'll say we have selected this one. You'll notice that I've actually added lead time and stock. And so those are not showing up here in the current upload. In the new upload that I'm doing right now, we'll notice that the lead time and the stock are going to be published with the filter. So let's kind of check in on, okay. So everything is now uploaded. So we'll go ahead and select next. And so now what our project space is doing is it is validating that the library is correct. We've got all of the files that we have, and all of our symbols have the correct entities. So as much as we would love to build skyscrapers in NetSkeme, not every entity is currently supported. So we have to make sure that your symbols, they're able to be displayed correctly within NetSkeme. And so this is kind of going through making sure there aren't any unsupported entities. And then if there are some unsupported entities, we'll actually get a report saying, this file is missing, or something along the lines of you have unsupported entities within one of your symbols. And I'll show that here in a second once it's done running. So at this point, once we get to step 2, we actually can step away. We can kind of close this, we can go get a cup of coffee, we can let it run, and we can actually log back into our project space, and it will pick up right where it left off, and it'll actually run in the background. So this is kind of being done at a server level. So you don't need to sit here and watch it. Since this is a smaller library, we can, watch paint dry a little bit, but gotta have it be a little more entertaining. So we'll be going back to the library manager. So in the library manager, if you don't use HyDraw CAD, we are going to provide kind of the library manager. And in here, you can actually link your models to your symbols, and we'll actually kind of expose that within NetSkeme, you'll be able to quickly do a search by the model code, and you'll be able to find those symbols. And you'll be able to quickly, just like you do with fluidpowertools.com, you'll be able to just search, drag and drop, type in, and then you'll also be able to utilize these new property fields. And I can kind of show you within our model properties. In here is where you kind of define your new properties. So I've actually created an inner diameter for our hose property. So in here, we just kind of select our data type. We'll select new, of course, and then we'll give it a name, a data type. If there's a unit category, we'll display that. And then we'll also assign it to a component type. So in here, as you can see, I've only assigned it to our hose, and you'll actually be able to see that once I get into the NetSkeme portion of this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log out. So that way we kind of see our new library when we log back in. Okay, validation should be finishing up here. For very large libraries, this validation could take anywhere from a couple hours to a day. You will receive an email when it is finished validating. So if this was a very large library, I could step away and I could just let this run and say when I got the email, I could log back in, kind of see what's wrong with my library, if there's any errors, and then I could move along in the process. Should be wrapping up here. Let me go ahead and refresh. See what's taking it so long. Okay. So it seems to have forgotten. So let me go through this one more time. So while we wait, let me see if we have any questions. So if you guys have any questions so far, go ahead and type them in and I will be able to answer them as we go. Right now we're still waiting on this to upload and process correctly. For some reason it forgot.
Yeah, so I'll take the opportunity as Frank resets. This is John again. So this is not released to market, so it's in our review system, and we're still doing validation and checkout on it. And so I'll just mention that our intent is to release this to the market at the end of October, on October 30th.
Yep.
So still in checkout, but we'll see what's going on here.
Okay. Okay, so like I mentioned, it is validating, kind of making sure all of our symbols are able to be supported and displayed in NetSkeme. While we wait for this to load, actually, I can go ahead and I can kind of show you the library structure a little bit. So within our symbol library, I've built this NetSkeme library, and so we actually have our menu data section and our symbols. So in the menu data, this is kind of what organizes all of our symbols into those folders, and that's stored in an Access database as well. And our symbols here are stored as a DWG and a GIF file. So the DWG is kind of what's pulled into HyDraw CAD, and it's what's being seen in the drawing space, whereas that GIF is what you're seeing in the Library Explorer. It's that kind of image. So NetSkeme actually does not use DWG since it's on the cloud, and so it's also kind of transferring from that DWG to the supported format. And it is kind of doing that conversion. Okay, so I see a question here. So the question is, we see some slowness with the library upload. Would a new version of the library take the same time? We expect to have periodic releases. So with the library upload, so this first step, that can actually be done. You can just upload that, and that will take about the same time, depending on how many symbols and the size of your library, but usually it's about the same time. What's going to take longer is this validation step, because it's going to go through that number of symbols and it's going to make sure that all of those entities are supported. And so if you have a large set of symbols, it could take a little longer, but this step can actually be done offline. So once you've reached step 2, you can step away and you can let it process, and then you're going to receive an email saying, the validation step is complete. Please log into our project space and see kind of what errors you're seeing within the library. And then it'll go into this optimize step, which I'll show next, and that can also be done offline. So for the periodic releases, you just kind of have to get through step 1, and then you'll have to kind of come back and check in. So it should be easy to do kind of your periodic releases. So now our validation has kind of been completed on that library that I've uploaded, and it did find a couple errors. So if I select this download option, it'll allow me to see our validation report. And in here, it's going to let me know, I have a symbol here and it has an unsupported hatch. So within NetSkeme, only the solid hatch pattern is supported right now. And so we do have kind of this note down here. These are the attributes that are allowed to be kind of uploaded into NetSkeme and are able to be supported. And it's also telling me that I have a missing DWG file. So in the case of this file, it's actually going to be skipped and it's not going to be able to display. So I would actually have to go back and I would have to kind of fix that within my library and re-upload. Since I know exactly what this file actually is, it's not super important, but I will kind of show it later on what does display in the case of a skipped symbol. So let's go ahead and hit next. So now it's going to optimize our library. And so it's going to allow you to, what this is doing is it's kind of adding what we call kind of a concave hull. And so within AutoCAD, you have to select the line directly, which can be a little irritating, but you'll notice within NetSkeme, if you kind of hover over a symbol, it has a very large area to be selected. And that's kind of what it's adding onto these symbols. So now it's quickly optimized. I think I had 80 symbols, so this is very, or 40 symbols. So this is a very quick step. So we'll hit next. And so now it's going to allow me to actually check this library in kind of a sandbox environment, just for testing purposes, make sure everything is there within the library. And it's going to open up a second tab of NetSkeme, and it's just going to allow me to kind of play with my library, make sure everything is there, all that good stuff. So if I come in here, if we select, let's say, our directional control valves, all of our symbols are now uploaded. We can drag them in, and if we select edit, we can actually see, we have our lead time, we have our stock fields, all added within our directional control valves. And for our filter, just for proof, we'll double click and we still have our lead time and our stock properties available to be selected and given some values. So I do know that this is now uploaded since we do have our new fields. We have our directional control valve symbols. We should have everything else in here. So let's just say I've gone through, I've verified everything looks good. I'm going to go back to our project space tab, and now the next option is going to be available. So I'll select next to move along in the process. And it's going to allow me to enter a comment. So we'll say this is our full library upload, and we're going to publish this. So now this is going to be pushed out to our end users, and they'll be able to easily pull from our new corporate library with our brand new stock and lead time fields. And you can see I've added more symbols this time. It's going to tell me when I uploaded this. And I can actually, if I want, I can go back one version, only one version to a previous library. Let's say there were some errors, we want to undo what we've done. We have that option here. And we also can disable this corporate library. So say we don't want anybody pulling from the corporate library, maybe it's outdated and we just need to cut access off from it, we can do that here. So now I can go back to what our end users are going to see, and I'm going to put a small schematic together. Would it be possible to update only model data? So when we deploy the library, you're going to want to update your data. You can do, I believe, just the update for the folder for the model data, and it should update all of those fields. But to be safe, the symbols, it'll have that menu data, so it'll kind of, if you've updated anything within there, you should be able to do that as well, and it shouldn't take any more time. That data is going to be the longest part, actually. So, but you can do just the model data. So now we're going to go to what we see with an end user, and we're going to go back to NetSkeme, and let's just be safe and refresh. And we're going to log in as our sales engineer. And let's say we are in the field. We are ready to create a schematic. Let's select new, and let's use our nice vest template that we have uploaded from our org admin. So now if we select our symbol library, we now have all of our symbols here, and I can actually do a search. So let's go ahead and search for HBK05. This should be linked to our filter, and I can actually bring this in. And now I have a filter, and I have my lead time and my stock pulled in. So these values are all pulled from my corporate library, and this is a linked model to that filter symbol. So this is all work that is done from the design engineer, and it's passed along. And now as a sales engineer, I can actually kind of access that data. And I can also just bring in plain symbols with no model data assigned. And so all of our properties still appear, and we can actually type these in as we see fit. Of course, you probably want to pull from your design engineer database and use their values. So I'm going to quickly put together a little power unit here. And I actually want to exclude these from the parts list because I don't have any information on our power unit. So the schematic that I'm going to build today is going to be very basic. It's going to be kind of just a small basic schematic, just because I wanted to kind of focus more on the fact that you can pull in properties from your corporate library. You can pull in data from that corporate library, all of that good stuff. And less on the actual schematic building. Of course, you can do that. So now we'll also bring in a relief valve. We'll bring in this one. So I did show that you can search from your corporate library, just like you can do from Fluid Power Tools. We also can do our select from library option, just like how we do with Fluid Power Tools. With our relief valve here, you'll notice that the fluidpowertools.com library is kind of grayed out. Since this is kind of your custom symbol, you won't be able to search and assign data just because it's not linked to that symbol. But within your corporate library, you can link data and we can assign it. So let's go middle of the line here on my Parker relief valve and we'll select OK. And now if I double click in here, we have some properties that we've filled out within our library manager. And it looks like a display property came through. And we're gonna do another search here, just to kind of drive this one home. And so I have a lot of directional control valves here. They're all linked to multiple symbols. Let's see, this is the one that we want to use. And so our symbols can now be utilized just like NetSkeme symbols. And all of the, let me exclude this from the parts list, all of the connection points connect to our connection lines and everything. So we just kind of use auto connect, start, and where we select where we start and stop the connection line, and it'll automatically be routed, just like how we do with NetSkeme today. And we want some cylinders. So let's go to our actuators, bring in a cylinder. So in here, you'll notice that I do have this red X. So I mentioned that that symbol that had some hatching that was not supported, it got skipped. So when you have that, there's this red X that appears, and that symbol cannot be pulled in. So in that case, I just had a small load with a small block that was our cylinder load, and it just had some hatching in the middle. So I did make a backup here so that I didn't have to go through 2 uploads of our library today. And we'll just bring him right here. And so we'll exclude these from the parts list as well. And so all of our properties that I've assigned within our library manager are here as well. Just to drive it home, I also did create a component type within our library. So if I go in here and our component type, we should have a, actually, let me just show it right in here. Yes, our actuator load component type. So this actuator load component type has a weight property field attributed to it. So if I double click here, there's now a weight field. So let's say it's 10 pounds, just for fun. And we'll also exclude this from the parts list. So all those component types can be defined and different property fields can be displayed and given to everything throughout the drawing. So now we have our hoses. That's what I was missing. So I have some hose symbols here. Do a copy selection. Oops. And we'll flip our hose. And finish up our connections here. So I'm almost finished with our basic schematic, and then I want to show bringing it into HyDraw CAD before we wrap up today. And I'm going to make some adjustments here using our keyboard options that are very handy in NetSkeme. So all you have to do is select a symbol and use your keyboard arrow keys, and the symbol will move as you want it. Last option, we're actually going to do a pressure gauge. And we'll do a select from library. We should have some data for these. And we'll select our PG2451. We'll actually do a copy selection. That way we don't have to insert a second pressure gauge and do that. Select from library, it'll copy all of the properties with it. And we'll finish our connections. So now we've got our basic schematic. So let's kind of reassign our item ID before we kind of create our bill of materials here. So while we do have our, our nice custom property fields, when we create a bill of materials, it's going to be inserted in the top right corner of our parts or our template, and it is still going to include just our model code, description, and manufacturer. So when it comes to a bill of materials, if you want custom properties to be displayed within the drawing, it's going to come down to your HyDraw CAD engineers, your design engineers, to kind of create that and insert it in the drawing. But it does not limit your sales engineers from being able to create a quote offline using your lead time, your stock, all of this information that is included within the properties. All right, so now I want to kind of show the handoff to your design engineers. So all we have to do is save this as a DWG, and it's going to download our file here as a DWG. I'm going to select open, and it's going to open this in HyDraw CAD. So we'll continue opening this. So now within HyDraw CAD, I have the same library as a design engineer, and I can actually come in here and all of that information gets passed on, and I can actually also create a custom bill of materials using all of those property fields as I would like. So I can include, oh, that's not a very fun one, is it? Do I have another default? I don't, but I can add to that real quick. So within our lists and charts, we can add, let's say, our stock. Select OK. And create a parts list, including our stock. So we have what everything is in stock. And we can insert that, get rid of our old parts list, and now engineering can quickly take this schematic and put her to use. All right. So like John mentioned, this NetSkeme Enterprise is going to be available on October 30th. As far as pricing, we will actually release that closer to release day. I think this is pretty much everything that I would like to show. So if you guys have any other questions, maybe we didn't get to something that you were looking to see, you can either type it into the chat window, or you can send us an email to support@netskeme.com, and we will gladly kind of follow up with you. So I guess I will hand it back to John, and I will see.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't look like any questions, but if they filter in, we'll take a pause as I go through a few quick updates. So again, thank you, Frank, for delivering today's product demonstration. And as you mentioned, NetSkeme Enterprise will be released for sale to the market on October 30th. So look for announcements and details that follow. So we'd be grateful if you could take some time to complete a short survey at the conclusion of this webinar. It's been updated specifically for your impressions of NetSkeme Enterprise. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And also tomorrow you'll receive an email containing a link to view a replay of today's session. So feel free to share this same link with your colleagues. A link to other video segments from prior webinars will be also provided in that email. So Frank, if you could bring up the social media page, and we'll just kind of show everyone our layout of the webinar schedule, page, slide number 3, if you could. We have our, yes, we've got all the wonderful animations to go through again. There we go, wonderful, thanks. So as you can see, we're made it through our, pretty far through our September, October webinar schedule. But we do invite you to join our social media channels. And then our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, October 26th. The focus there will be on our latest desktop plugin for Inventor, MD Tools 790. And we'll introduce some new group callout features and reduced load time as well that comes with that release. So I don't see any more questions. So that's great if you guys think of them. And then also I should mention in our market announcement, we'll have some frequently asked questions. So all those ones you couldn't think of, that'll be available as well then. So again, I'd like to thank you, Frank, and thanks to all for attending today's session. And we wish you a pleasant and safe day. Thank you.